Well, hey there everyone, it's Anthony back with another video here on Single and Placing. Hi, hope you're having a fantastic day, weekday, weekend, week, month, evening, morning, overnight, all of that good stuff. I'm back from Ohio and being greeted with some stormy, dreary, cool weather, which I actually really appreciate. It's nice and cool. We've got a sprinkle of rain going on right now. So I have my little rain slicker on and just taking Apollo for our first walk since I got back. I got back, landed right around midnight. So by the time, got my bag, went and picked up my car, got the shuttle to go get my car and got home. It was right around like 1:15-ish, 1:30, and so I let Apollo out this morning for just a quick pee, and then we went right back to bed and cuddled, and we've just been hanging out inside all day, lazy day. But he finally was like, okay, time for walks. So it's like, okay, well, it's a little stormy out, but I don't mind taking you out. I wanted to take you for a walk today. My initial plan was to take him to the dog park, but just with this weather, it's going to be super muddy and nasty over there, so we'll wait until it warms up. But we're here, and I'm back. And oh my gosh, what a trip. So we're just going to do a vlog. I'm going to take him for a stroll, and I'm going to try to go through the entire trip as much as I can remember in order and talk about all the things that happened, because it was a lot of fun. I was working on editing a separate vlog that I'll be doing, which is the stuff that I filmed while I was there. And so I just took a little break from that. I'm almost done, probably have another hour or so of editing to go, and then I'll upload that. So hopefully that'll go up tonight, which is Monday, the 10th at the time that I'm recording this. So hopefully that goes up tonight. We'll see, because it's going to take a little while to process. But any hoozlebees. Before we get into that, I'll just quickly cover diamond painting stuff. I hope you're doing well. As always, make sure to leave in the comments how things are going for you. As far as diamond painting goes, no real updates. I am almost done with my first row of Primrose by Alphonse Mucha and Distracted by Diamonds. I'll be completely honest. I'm not loving that kit. I'm not loving working on that kit. I mean, it's not to the point where I'm gonna, stop working on it or bail on the project. I think I'm gonna try to see it through. But I just am having some qualms with the quality of that canvas. And I think I mentioned it in a previous video for a different kit. Was it Two Spirit, I think, from Distracted by Diamonds, that I was going to work up, and I was like, this canvas just feels really stiff, or stiffer than I remember them feeling. The canvas for Primrose isn't as stiff, but it's a little stiff, and it's not that big of a deal now that I'm working on it, but I have noticed that the glue around the edges, especially on the bottom edge, or the bottom that I'm working on, seems like it's a little thin, the glue that was applied. It's a little slippery, so when you place a drill, it kind of slides around, and you have to kind of focus to get it to align properly, to your drill to align properly. Like every time I place a drill, it kind of slides a little bit, and I've got to make sure it's in place, which I know is something that happens when you don't have a super thick application of glue or adhesive on the canvas. It just feels a little thin. So that's been slowing me down, making little adjustments. If I had to guess, I think that the drills are either a combination of acrylic and resin, or they're all acrylic, but some of them were from a different manufacturing run. Some of them are kind of that button style, more smooth top drill. And then some of them are a little bit more pyramid shaped with more defined facets. Now I don't have a problem with either one of those styles of drills. The more faceted ones lead me to believe that they might be resin, whereas the button drills might be acrylic, or it's all acrylic and just a different style of acrylic drill. And I don't have a problem with either one independently, but when you mix the two together, certain DMCs are certain styles and certain ones are others, how I place my drills kind of changes up depending on the style of drill that I'm working on. The acrylic ones are a little bit taller, so I just grab them differently in my tray. And so constantly switching back and forth between these kind of types of drills, just once again, it's slowing me down a little bit. And it just seems a little like, I don't know, it seems like a grab bag of different quality and style. It's just kind of weird. It just is like this odd mix. So I don't know if, that's from a cost saving standpoint, here's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining, a manufacturer is like, okay, you can get all this kind or all this kind, or we'll just give you whatever. And that's the cheaper way to, that's the less expensive way to go. And so this just feels like I'm using just kind of remnants. I don't know how else to explain it. And once again, not the end of the world. This is me being nitpicky, but it just doesn't feel like a premium canvas that I'm working on, because like each DMC is like a slightly different quality and style of drill, and the glue feels a little thin. Like it just feels like, I don't know. I love Robin and I love Distracted by Diamonds, and I would always recommend them as a shop to go to, but this just feels a little like haphazardly put together, and just a little, it feels like corners have been cut. I'll just be very, very honest. It feels like corners have been cut with the materials that were chosen. In addition, there's one particular drill color that is in this entire kit. It's the color with the most drills, and they're sticking together horribly. They're horribly sticking together. So much so that I have to like pour them out of the container and then get an empty container to start putting the stuck together drills into and kind of pick them out of my tray, which once again, really slowing me down. It makes it almost impossible to multi-place that color, and there's a lot of it. And then I put a dime inside my container and try to shake it to break them up, which kind of works. Say about half of them break up. The ones that do break up are super staticky, and then I'm still left with a ton. It's just, I'm essentially having to single place these big sections of color blocking because I can't get a good line of drills because they're stuck together. So it's very slow going. The rendering is fine, definitely high computer rendered, which I'm used to, but it still just adds to the fussing that I'm having to do with this kit. So I feel like I should be farther along than I am. And every time I sit down to work on it, I'm like, but it hasn't gotten so bad where I'm like, that's it, we're not doing this kit. I'm gonna keep pushing through, but it's a hard pill to swallow to push through on a kit that's like 60 something by 140. Like it's a big, big kit, and to feel like I'm having to push myself to get it done, and I've just started, it just feels like this is gonna be, it's going to be a long, potentially arduous project to work on, but I hope it's going to look good when everything's said and done. I'm going to keep going. Who knows? I might get to a point where I'm like, enough's enough, but I haven't gotten there yet. So once again, still love Distracted by Diamonds. It's just, I feel like my experience with Distracted by Diamonds kits has varied. It's kind of all over the place. Like consistency is one of the things I really do look for with a premium diamond painting shop, and I'm just not seeing the consistency in the quality of materials and how I feel about working them up, and that's a problem, I'd love to recommend them and say, no matter what you get, you're gonna get this, but I don't feel like I can say that about the products that they produce. It's kind of like you don't really know which manufacturing run or which manufacturer or what types of this and that you're going to work with. So it's hard to tell somebody that, I really had fun working on this kit and everything was this and that and everything was awesome or really good, when that might not be the case for their run or their kit, because I've personally seen some pretty drastic differences in what I get in the box. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But that's just my honest opinion at this stage. So I have that. I've got my cross-stitch conversion that I'm working on. I haven't touched that. And then I thought I was going to kit up a Voyager from Diamond Art Club and bring that with me on my trip. But I decided to bail on that because I was just coming down to the wire for leaving, and I didn't have enough time to kit it up and select enhancement drills and stuff. So I ended up just bringing Lotus with Koi Fish, which was a whip that I've been working on. I brought that with me to Ohio, and I got one color done the first night. I got my 310s down. I was like, I'm too tired. And then it just sat on the table as decoration the rest of the trip because there was just no way I had time to sit down and diamond paint. I was like coming home and passing out, or coming back to the hotel and passing out every night. So no real progress on that. So really the only thing that I've done since my trip is what I worked on with Primrose today while I was editing. So yeah, that's everything. As far as whips go, as far as content goes, I put up my first Summer with the Masters video for June. I hope everyone really liked it. It seems like it's going over well. I put a decent amount of work into that. And then I've had some unboxings go up. And then, like I said, I'll be hopefully getting my trip vlog posted today, maybe tomorrow, just depending on how long it takes to process. So that's pretty much everything for diamond painting. I've seen a lot of people signing up for the event and registering for it, which is awesome. I hope we continue to see more people join in. And you'll have to let me know what you're working on for the event, if anything, and all of that good stuff. Now I've just got to think about what I'm going to do for July's video, because I bailed on my plans of going to the Cleveland Art Museum while I was on my trip. But that leads us into trip talk. Let's talk about how Cedar Point went. It was incredible. The long and short of it is that was a lifetime trip for me, or a lifetime goal trip to make it to Cedar Point, and I can't believe I actually did it. And I'm trying so hard to commit everything to memory because I don't want it to be a fleeting thing for me, which is often the case for me. I'll go and do something and I'm always like, what's the next thing? On to the next thing. And I tend to not let things sink in, but I'm really trying to get this one to sink in because I've been wanting to do that for 20 years, 22 years since I was a little kid playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. So it's been a dream of mine to go there, and I got to do it. So yeah, the first day travel went relatively smoothly. Flights were just fine. I flew from Denver to Baltimore and then Baltimore to Cleveland. That all went just fine. And then I went and got my rental car, and I had selected that I wanted an electric vehicle because I figured Cedar Point claimed to have charging ports at the lighthouse point. I didn't find them, but it wasn't a problem because I went to go pick up my rental car and they're like, okay, well, we've got a Jetta for you or like a Chevy something. And I was like, oh, no. I paid the extra, $70 and $80, $70 or $80 to upgrade to an electric vehicle. And that's what I'm here to pick up. I reserved it in February. And he's like, the guy there was like, I'm not sure. And they were really low on cars, granted. Like that lot was pretty empty. But they were just scrambling, and they were just, you get up in line, they look at the little code that they, style of car that they wrote down at check-in, and They were just like, okay, does this sound good for you? Perfect. It's all the way at the back of the lot. Here it is. Go get it. See you later. And they didn't do the normal thing of like when you rent a car, they walk down with you over the car, walk around it to check for any damage, just to make sure like what's there was there when you picked it up and not something that you did, you know? And they usually mark like, okay, there's a ding here, or it's dirty here, or there's this, something wrong with it. So they know that you won't be, you know, you're not liable for that damage that was already on the vehicle. They didn't do any of that. They were just like, keys are in it, get out of here. And so I thought that was really strange, because then how do they know if you did something or not? And so they were like, okay, the only electric car that we have on the lot right now is this Hyundai this Genesis GV80, which is like their ritzy sedan. And it's a 2023 or 4. I was like, yeah, that'll work. You know, I had asked for a Tesla, like it said Tesla something or similar, Tesla SUV or similar. It's like, whatever, it's fine. I was hoping to ride around in style in a Tesla, but fine, I'll take it. You know, as long as it's electric, you know, because at the time I was thinking I could charge it and I wouldn't have to pay for gas when I get to the hotel. So I go to, they're like, okay, the keys are in it. I go to get in the car, it's dirty inside. No one's cleaned it. I'm pretty sure I saw somebody pull up and drop off that vehicle while I was standing in line. So they hadn't even like gone over to give it the sniff test or anything. They hadn't even looked at it since it had been dropped off. And so I get in, it's dirty inside. I turn it on. It's got like 50 something miles of charge left in it, which is like 12% battery. So obviously it had just been dropped off, so they hadn't charged it at all. So it's pretty much on like a, you know, less than a quarter tank if you're gonna compare it to gasoline. Less than a quarter tank. So I went to go leave and I'm like, this isn't like, I won't even have enough to barely make it to Cedar Point. If there's traffic, I won't make it. I won't have enough charge left to make it. So I got back out of the car and I went up to the guy and I'm like, hey, you know, this vehicle is on empty essentially, and I'm not gonna have enough juice to make it to the hotel. Do you guys have a charging station or something here? I don't mind hanging out and sitting with the car while it charges, but I can't make it there with what's here. He's like, oh, we do, but it's not a fast charge. It takes, you know, hours for the vehicle to charge all the way. Like, I'm sorry, man, I can get you in a, you know, a Volkswagen Jetta. I'm like, no, like, if that's the case, then you need to refund me the difference and I'll take whatever car you have, but I'm not paying the premium price for one of your economy vehicles. He's like, oh, we can't do that right now. You know, we're so slammed. Like, they were really busy, granted, and they had minimal cars left, but that's not, you know, that's not really my problem, you know? Like, I reserved this like 4 months in advance. So I was like, you know what? That's fine. I will find the closest charging station to the airport and I'll just go and pay to charge it myself. He's like, you can return it at any charge. Like, you don't need to return it full. I'm like, well, obviously not. Like, I'm not doing that, but I need to at least get to where I'm going. So I was like, you know what? I will deal with this on the back end. I'll call them, you know, call Avis and, you know, plead my case. And so I get in, I start going. One of the buttons in the vehicle is completely broken off, and it's one of the buttons that puts it into a park. So I had to learn that the button that was broken, and I had to just reach my finger into the center console and hit the button inside, was the park button. So that was a surprise when I went to go put it in park when I got to the charging thing. And I was like, how do I do this? And I'm like, oh, it's this broken button that I have to reach in and press. I'm like, hopefully I don't electrocute myself. So buttons were broken. The speakers were blown out. So whoever had rented it prior to me, or somebody before me, had the bass and the treble and the mid-range turned all the way up to 10. So they must have just blasted the speakers and blown them out. So they were all staticky and fuzzy. So I couldn't really listen to music because it just sounded terrible. So I just had music playing on my phone speakers, and then I went to go charge it, opened up the charging thing, and the cover for the chargers had been ripped off or broken off at some point. So it's a beautiful, brand new, like luxury sedan that looks beautiful. You know, it looked nice, but it was all busted up inside. Like it just hadn't been taken care of and people were damaging it. And I didn't have any opportunity to point any of this stuff out when I picked up the car. And I'm like, I'm not being held responsible for all of this stuff. In fact, I feel like I should be refunded something for all this stuff. Like I can't even listen to music in here. So I called them while it was charging, which was about $40 to charge it up. And so I called them, and the customer service person made note of everything that I had noticed to make sure I wouldn't be charged. And I was like, she's like, okay, I made note of it, so you won't be charged, you know, that won't be a ding against you. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but I didn't pay for this quality of a vehicle, and I'm looking for either a refund or a partial refund or something. And she's like, oh, well, we won't be able to take care of any of that stuff till after you return the vehicle. So I didn't have energy to sit on hold and go to bat for myself today. I'm just too tired, so I'll take care of it tomorrow. But yeah, I was just like, this is kind of poopy. I mean, granted, it is a gorgeous car. It is a beautiful vehicle until you get inside and realize all the stuff that's wrong with it that other people have done. But it was nice to drive, very comfortable. It had all sorts of cool safety features. I did feel like I was riding in style to a certain extent, but then I'd go to put it in park or turn the music on, and I'm like, oh, it's all broken. So anyway, but at the end of the day, is it a huge deal? No, I drove it to the hotel, parked it, then drove it again to go get some supplies the first night. I went to Target, came back, and I didn't step foot inside that thing until it was time to leave. So it wasn't like I was taking on a road trip or spending hours and hours in it. I probably spent maybe 3 hours in the car total, but still, like I paid for this experience to be like, oh, I'm pulling up to Cedar Point, you know, in a nice vehicle that I paid extra for, and I didn't really get that, I didn't feel like. So I'm going to take care of that. But anyway, so that's that. And yeah, I got to Cedar Point. It was a really nice drive. It was only about 40 minutes, a 40-minute drive, so not too bad. And I got there, checked in, and that was a really super smooth process. In and out pretty quickly, got my keys. The check-in person, Skylar, she was super, super friendly. She had all this extra information for me that I could utilize. One thing that was very helpful is I had a meal plan for the 3 days in the park, meaning every 90 minutes I was able to go to some select restaurants or food stalls within the park and get an entree, a side, as part of the meal plan. So I didn't have to pay a la carte. But there was only select restaurants. Go ahead. Only select restaurants you could go to, and only select menu items that you get to pick from at each one. And they don't explicitly tell you at each one, like there's not like an icon saying this is part of the meal plan. So she had a printout of which restaurants I could go to and what meals I could order that were included. And she was like, I don't have any of these like to hand out, but I do have one master copy in my desk. Let me get it and you can take a picture of it. So that was very helpful, because then when I was hungry, I just pulled up my phone. I'm like, oh, this place is close and I can get this. So that was nice. Went and dropped off my bag, and saw my cottage, or my cabin, which was gorgeous, right on the water, absolutely beautiful. Did that, unpacked, got everything set up, and then I took a stroll over to the entrance that I got to use because I was a hotel guest. It's a side entrance from the park, not the main entrance, which was nice because it's kind of towards the back of the park. So if you go through the front entrance, you'd have to hoof it all the way back there to get to some of the rides, whereas I was already right there. So I kind of got to, you know, beat people to the chase when it comes to getting to some of the rides in the mornings, which was awesome. So I walked over there just to time it to see how long it would take me in the morning to get over there. And then I did that. I came back to the hotel room, got in the car, and then I went to Target and Ulta because I needed some more sunscreen. I just wanted to get a backup just in case, so I snagged a clearance sunscreen at Ulta. I didn't actually need to use it, and we'll get to why, but I should have used it. And then I went over to Target and I just got like breakfast stuff. So I got some yogurts and some fruit and some cold brew and just some little snacky things. That way I could have some stuff in the morning before I headed into the park. So got all that, came back. I stopped and got dinner. I was gonna just get dinner to make, but I was not feeling it. So I just stopped at Chili's. I was like, let me see what the Ohio Chili's is like. And the service was fantastic, and the food was really good too. And it was affordable. So I got that. I went back to the hotel room, got out my diamond painted for about 10 minutes, and then I crashed. And by crashed, I like full on just passed out. Like I don't even really remember falling asleep, which I normally, you know, takes me some time to fall asleep. Not a ton of time, but you know, I'm laying there for 10, 15 minutes and then I fall asleep. I was out in like seconds and woke up ready to, and raring to go for Coastermania, which was the event, the main event. So I went and got in line for that and checked in. And when I checked in, I noticed that on the itinerary, it said that they would give you your time for the cruise that we were going to go on. And so you'd know your time, but they didn't give me one. And I didn't say anything at the time. I was just like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. And so I went and did all of the pre-scheduled exclusive ride times starting at 7 a.m. What happened? There you go, good boy. To ride the roller coasters before the park opened. It was really cool and very limited number of people. I think they said that they sold 1,000 tickets and that was it. So that was really cool to ride all these rides just with a few people on them throughout the morning. And then the park opened at 10, but they still had other roller coasters closed for us. So the general public couldn't go on them. They were just for the event people, but it rotated throughout the day. So it wasn't like it was all shut for, you know, the general public. Certain rides were closed at certain times. So that was awesome. And then it came time for us to go pick up our special commemorative gifts, which included a poster, which is really cool, and a pin, a special pin. And editing, Anthony, if you can put in a picture of those items, that would be great. A special pin and a poster. So we collected those, and one of the people that was handing them out is Tony, and he's actually the marketing manager, kind of the one that's running the whole show for the event, and he does all their kind of special event, you know, PR kind of stuff. So he was handing out the pins and posters. I was like, oh, hey, Tony, I didn't get a time for the cruise. Is that something I should have gotten at the beginning? He's like, oh, no, you must not have seen on Twitter, but I posted that because of the wind and the choppy waters on the lake, we're not doing the cruise. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. Well, we'll see you for dinner. And I left. Didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh, that's a bummer, but it wasn't like a huge part of why I was here. It was just kind of a fun add-on. Didn't think anything of it. So just went about my day. I rode some more rides, had a little bit of free time there. We went and got to do a behind-the-scenes tour of their shop. So all of those photos and stuff are in the last vlog that I posted, the one that's processing right now. But we got to go into their shop and look at some different props and stuff that they're working on, and all the stuff that they have for their Halloween event every year, kind of like all behind the scenes. We had to go into like the employee only area and see their shop for their props and costuming. So I got to do that. Then I got to go over to Steel Vengeance, which is one of their roller coasters, and we got to go into the infield, which is where they do maintenance and they have storage and stuff inside, like not inside the body of the roller coaster, but you know, private access, employee only area around, you know, inside where the roller coaster goes around. And once again, you'll see clips of that in the last vlog. So we got to go in there and take a look at the roller coaster from where people don't normally get to see it. And they had like, you know, extra lumber and stuff. It's like where they do all of the maintenance and all that stuff for this wooden roller coaster. So that was really cool. And we could hang out in there from 1:30 to 3. And I spent pretty much the whole time in there just kind of checking things out, because you don't get to go, you know, past the, you know, do not enter, you know, signs normally. So it was cool to go behind the scenes and see all this stuff. It was still safe, of course. They had fencing and stuff up still, but you know, that's usually only employees that get to go in there. So that was really cool, and that's where a lot of content creators that signed up for the event were hanging out and filming and stuff. So I got to say hi to a couple people and just rub elbows with some folks and introduce myself, which was kind of cool. Didn't make any like strong connections. I guess we'll get to that at the end of talking about the event, but yeah, I went and did that. And then after that, I walked around, rode some more rides that weren't exclusive access or anything. I just rode them, got some food, got a drink, and then walked back over to the hotel, and I took a nap for a couple hours. And I woke up and it was time for the dinner, which was from 5:30. Ran out of battery. But yeah, the dinner was from 5:30 to 7. I woke up like right at 5:30 and hustled my way over to dinner, even though I was not hungry. That's also when they were doing the Q&A after dinner, so I kind of wanted to be there for that. But I went over there and they had like buffet style setup with like some of the classics from the park. So they had some orange chicken and some mac and cheese and some this and that. So I picked at it a little bit. They had some parfait, like dessert parfait cups, and then, you know, soda, water, that type of thing. So it was pretty straightforward, but I definitely got my fill of what little I was willing to eat. I was so full by that point because I had already had 2 meals at the park by that point. And so just sat and hung out, and then I found a table where a couple people were wearing Cedar Point badges, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna go sit next to them and just like eavesdrop. And so I just sat and listened to them. They were mainly just talking about like general park stuff, but then they did comment on like, they weren't annoyed, but they were just like, I don't know how this Q&A is gonna go. I'm so glad Tony switched it to texting. So they had you, at first, in previous years, people could just line up in front of a microphone and walk right up and ask the question, and then that was that. This year, they changed it up because there are a lot of people that are frustrated with the fact that one of their new roller coasters, which is called Top Thrill 2, it opened for about 3 or 4 days, and then they closed it for reworking and said it was going to be temporarily closed, but it has yet to reopen. And that was about a month ago, I want to say. And so when people were buying these tickets, on the itinerary was to ride this new roller coaster. Like that was one of the selling points. And they were hoping it would be open in time for this event, but it was not. So I think a lot of people felt gypped that they purchased tickets for this event and didn't, you know, didn't get what was promised, essentially. And they changed the itinerary, I want to say a couple days before the event, to remove that roller coaster from the itinerary. And they replaced it with Wild Mouse, which is one of their like family spinning roller coasters that's like good for kids, adults. It was fun. I rode it once. It was fun, but not super memorable for me, but it was fun. So, and keep in mind, all throughout this, I did not care. I came there because of, it's been a dream for decades, regardless of the new roller coaster or not. This is something I've wanted to do. I could care less. It would have been a nice add-on, but I could care less. Like, I was there to ride some of the classics that I grew up dreaming of riding someday, like Millennium Force and Magnum and Corkscrew and all of that stuff, all the classic rides. So the latest, greatest, hottest, newest was not on my like must-do list. Would have been nice, but it was not a make or break for me. Especially considering the price of the ticket was very affordable. So even with that missing, it's once again, did not care. But apparently that was a huge sticking point for a lot of people, especially locals, I guess. So all that being said, they decided to change how the questions are asked. So when it came time for Q&A, Tony, the marketing guy, Colleen, who does like the events and some of the events and planning, and she also works with the team that does the food service, and then a guy named Mike who does a lot of the ride repairs, maintenance. He's like the manager for all that stuff. The three of them got on stage and they're like, okay, the way we're doing it this year is you text 69 whatever, you text that number with the title Mania, and then you put in your question. It'll come up here on the laptop, and then we'll pick which questions we answer. So they're like screening the questions, and he said up front, he's like, we have no updates on Top Thrill 2. We have no additional information for you beyond what the park has already officially, announced. You're not going to glean anything new or get timelines or anything from us. We don't have that for you. So any questions about when is it reopening, why did it close, what's going on, those aren't going to be answered because we don't have the answers for you at this time, and we're not going to sit here and just read off a bunch of questions that we can't even answer for you. We're not doing that. So I appreciated that. I could tell that a lot of people in the crowd were just kind of like mumbling and grumbling about it, but nobody was like out and out like, irate. So that's fine. So they start answering all these softball questions like, what's your favorite ride, Tony? And when are we going to get this kind of ice cream back? And like just kind of softball questions. And he was picking them himself, So I was like, okay, this is like, I thought I was going to learn about like, oh, we've got a potty break. Hold on. I've just got to find a trash can. But yeah, I thought I was going to learn like maybe some behind the scenes stuff or a peek behind the curtain at what might be coming, or not anything related to that roller coaster because I know it's a hot button, topic, but just some like more interesting behind the scenes stuff, or like, learn a little bit more about the team or something like that. And I put in a question asking about like their roles, like, there's in depth more about their roles, like what's the most challenging part of your role day to day. I just put in a couple like essentially questions that Anthony, the recruiter, wanted to know, just to learn more about them as people. But they just kept going to like, can you please introduce a mango icy flavor? And everyone would chuckle. It was just all like, just kind of fluff questions that they were answering. And then, so I was kind of checked out. I was looking at my phone like, okay, what are the wait times at for certain things? Hold on. For certain rides, I was already just like, okay, as soon as this is over, this is my plan. Like just kind of passively listening because it was all just kind of fluff questions. And then Tony's like, guys, do you want me to go ahead and not guys to us, but guys to Colleen and Mike? He's like, should I answer a negative question or a critical question? And they both kind of awkwardly looked at each other and they're like, sure. And so someone had said, I don't think that offering us a fast lane pass in exchange for the cruise that we were expecting to go on today is sufficient. Things have gone downhill with this event ever since you took charge, Tony, and that was just another slap in the face, blah, blah, blah. So so like I mentioned, the cruise got canceled. What I didn't know is that they had, anybody who was attending the Coastermania event got a fast lane pass added to their account at some point during the day, which means you can scan that at any of the rides that accept it, which is usually the really popular rides. And that gives you line cutting access one time for that ride. So that's what they gave us in lieu of the cruise, since it was canceled due to weather, which they can't control. It's weather, you know? And so this person was just like, not only did you fail to deliver on this roller coaster, but we also didn't get to go on our cruise. This was a waste of money and a waste of time. And this is all that you're gonna give us, is a free fast lane, which those individually cost anywhere from $20 to $40 depending on the day to skip the line on one ride one time. So me personally, I don't care. I didn't even know that that was on my account. I just took it as a loss, but that's not what, once again, that's not why I was there. You know, the cruise was like the least important thing out of all of it. It was, once again, nice to have, but not a requirement. But some people have been going for years. They expect certain things to happen, and even whether or not it was the weather, they don't care. They're just mad, you know, because things are changing or they didn't get what they wanted, blah, blah, blah. So, oh, it looks like they did officially. So usually we come up here, we go over the bridge, we come down, we go under the bridge. And I kept mentioning how it was gonna flood at some point and be closed. Looks like it is now closed, and I see the water going right up over the path. So it's officially flooded out. And that river looks high. So we'll have to figure out a different path today, because we can't go our normal route. So anyway, so he reads the question and he's like, look, we can't control the weather and the water, you know, how choppy the water is. It was a decision not only made by us for the safety of everyone attending the event, but it was also the decision of the owner of the cruise, the boat that we chartered. He said that he would not advise us doing the cruise because of the weather. And even if the weather calms down or picks up, it's a decision we had to make in the morning to whether or not we were going to continue with this. It wasn't a play it by ear kind of thing. It either was going to happen or it wasn't going to happen, and we decided with the weather that it's not going to happen. So in lieu of that cancellation, we thought it was appropriate to give a fast lane to everyone here in attendance. That way, when Top Thrill 2 does open, you can utilize that pass and cut the line at Top Thrill 2, which is going to have a crazy long line when it does open. And the pass didn't expire until September 2nd. And he was like, once again, I can't give any details about the reopening of that ride, but that fast lane will be good to ride on that roller coaster. That's all I can say. Essentially, he was saying it's going to open by September 2nd. And so those that are local and live nearby can come back up to the park and skip the line and, you know, go ride on that ride. And so I thought that was more than fair. You know, they didn't have to do anything. They could have just said, we don't control the weather, act of God, so sorry. We're not going to send you all out to drown. The end, you know. So the person that had sent that question in, stands up from one end of the pavilion and just starts screaming and ranting and raving at Tony like, this is BS. You know, he didn't say BS, he said the actual word. We've been coming here for blah, 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 and, you know, you tell us that you're gonna do this thing, you should fulfill that thing. It doesn't matter, you know, that water's not even that choppy and blah, blah, blah. This just sounds like another cop-out, and he's just ranting and raving about not being able to go on his cruise. And Tony is trying to engage with him and trying to calm him down, but this guy is just beet red, you know. It boggles my mind how a grown man can get so heated over basically, you know, not getting to go on a ride. Let's just say that he didn't get to go on the ride that he wanted, and he's screaming. There's 1,000 people there. He's screaming and beet red and, you know, just so upset. And I think what he thought is that everybody there would agree with him. So I think in his mind he was taking a stand, right? And taking a stand, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Enough's enough. You know, screwed us over on this event in his eyes. And I think he thought everybody else would be like, yeah, like, you're right. But he was just, it was so uncomfortable because everyone was just looking at him like, dude, like, chill out. Like, you just ate a buffet dinner that was provided to you. You just went on all these rides, private access to all of these rides, got these free gifts, and you're still here ranting and raving, you know? And everybody else was just looking at him like, oh my God. Even if some people did agree with him, nobody was taking it to that extreme. And so nobody was like, yeah, you get him. It was just very awkward. And I felt really embarrassed. I didn't feel embarrassed for him. He deserved what happened. But he had a wife or a girlfriend or a partner with him, and she just looked kind of mortified. And I felt bad for her. Like, maybe you want to rethink this relationship, you know? And so Tony tried. He even said, you know what, we can talk about this, sidebar this, and talk about it in private. So maybe he would have worked something out with this one guy, or like just to get him to calm down, but he refused. He just kept yelling, this is effed up, and this is BS, and blah, blah, blah. And Tony was like, you know what? Then you don't have to come here. Then don't come to this event. And that really set the guy off. He was just raving and stormed out of the big pavilion. And I don't think I started it, but I definitely was one of the first people that was like, bye, because I was just annoyed. I was like, let's keep this moving. I've got roller coasters to get on. Like, why are you derailing this with your hissy fit, you know? Like, I didn't come here to see some 50-year-old guy have a tantrum. Like, I'm here to ride some roller coasters. Let's keep the show on. Let's get the show on the road. But soon, you know, everybody else started booing him and like, see ya, get out of here. You know, don't come back next year. So he was like flipping off the crowd, and his wife had this like, you know, she has to put on a show. She's got to stand by her man, I guess. So she's flipping us off too and like waving and has that kind of like F you smirk on her face, you know, as they're being booed out, and he storms out. Apparently he still stayed at the park. You know, he had to take advantage of his day, so he still got all of his access to everything. I didn't get a good look at him. You know, I just kind of got a passing glance. All I saw was just like a beet red white guy. So I probably would have said something if I saw him out and about, but to do all of that and then still go around and like still got to get my early access, it's like it's like the epitome of I feel like entitled is a word that's often overused, but that's definitely someone that can be used appropriately towards, like, this entitled guy just livid for a reason out of everyone's control, you know. They can't just say, sorry, pilot, we don't care what the weather is like. Send these people out to their doom. It's what they paid for, you know. They had the best interests of all the guests in mind, but the guy didn't see it like that. He saw it as something being taken away from him. And so it just kind of played into what I've seen on social media from some of these roller coaster enthusiasts, is just how whiny and complainy and negative a lot of them are. And I did meet some really cool people. The people I met during the event, some really cool people. The coolest people that I met were the staff that was hosting the event, the employees that were kind of corralling us and kind of chauffeuring us around. The leaders of the event, Tony, Colleen, Mike, all the staff was so courteous and kind. Some of the guests and attendees that I bumped into were nice and fun to engage with, but I'd say for the majority, I'd say 80% of the people that I either was eavesdropping in on their conversations or actually engaged with were always complaining or mad about something. It could be anything. Any topic that you brought up or someone brought up, they had some sort of complaint about. The food wasn't hot enough. The mac and cheese isn't the same as the normal mac and cheese that they sell at XYZ. They must have done something with the recipe. Like anything you could think about. Last year at the event, the wait time wasn't as long. They just keep letting more people in to take more people's money. Keep in mind, for these exclusive rides, the max I waited for a ride was maybe 10 minutes. But that still is too long for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are locals. They've been doing it for years. And so they just get jaded, or they're constantly comparing previous years to this year. But very rarely did I hear anyone that was just excited to be there and just was having a generally good time. And I think a lot of people were having a good time, but there is this mindset within this coaster community or these enthusiasts that you always have to be, this is my opinion, you always have to be coming at everything with a critical and negative eye, because that's what's in vogue, is to not be happy. I heard so many people that would be in line for a ride and be complaining about how bad the ride is compared to Kings Island or compared to Universal or compared to this and that. It's not as good. They didn't do as good with the launch. It used to be good back in the day, but now they adjusted the trim brakes on this so you don't get to go over the hill fast enough like you used to, and it's just not as good. Meanwhile, they're standing in line for this ride, and then they get on the ride and I hear them screaming and they've got their hands up and they're like, oh my God. And the ride operator's like, how was it? And everyone's like, woo, woo. Yeah. And then they get off the ride. I really don't like that. And so I think it's just this kind of, and this was almost all from like male guests. I think it's this like machismo thing of like, you can't, like, it's not cool to be happy and to enjoy yourself. That's frowned upon. Like, you have to have this attitude of, it's not as good, I've seen it better elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. And it bleeds over into social media too, where no matter what you post in in this coaster Facebook group, Cedar Point Facebook group, it doesn't matter what you post. Like, a lot of the male members, they have an obligation to speak negatively because it's not seen as okay to have joy. Which is so funny because it's all about amusement parks, but a lot of these guys like refuse to be amused. It's like, what is this? It's such a weird like juxtaposition, you know? Because you'd think that would be a place where people would be consistently excited, like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun, and I can't wait to go again, or blah, blah, blah. That's so rare to see someone speaking positively about Cedar Point when they're at the park. Not, and we'll get there, but specific to this subset of enthusiasts. When you call yourself that, I think that automatically means that you have to be hypercritical and very cynical and very negative about everything, even if you're secretly having a good time, you know? So it was kind of a bummer. I didn't really connect with very many people because everyone just had this mask on and of negativity. And so that's not my mindset whatsoever. Like, I was I was so thrilled to be there. Like, there was certain points where I had to like kind of hold my mouth shut because I was walking past something and I was so giddy with excitement. I'm like, I can't just be walking down this pathway going like, woo, yeah, 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 like walking to go get a corn dog. Because I'm not lucky enough to have that in my backyard and to have gone a bajillion times. And I guess I'm not lucky enough to think critically about it. I'm seeing it with fresh eyes and for the first time. And my raw reaction was just like, I could not contain it was really hard to contain my excitement and not be the weirdo. Like, even in line, I'm like, okay, all right, we're doing this. This is going to be awesome, you know? And meanwhile, all around me, it's like, I don't know. They must have adjusted something at the launch. It just doesn't feel that good anymore. And like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've been on blah, blah, blah 6 times and like, blah, you know, it's just like constant. Oh yeah, well, I actually went on this ride this one time, and like just constant one-upping and complaining. And yeah, and like a lot of these guys that are coaster enthusiasts and on social media, it sounds like their thing is to have like really good takes on something. So to say something very critical or negative about a ride or a roller coaster that other people agree with or feel the same way, you have a nice take, a hot take on something. So I feel like all these guys were just trying to like eke out as many of their hot takes on things as they could. So lots of times where I was eavesdropping, it was like, oh, that's a really good take. Oh, that's a hot take on that, bro. You should tweet that. And it's just like, ugh, this is so gross. Like, living in your own little bubble like that and all these people around you just kind of egging you on. I'm like, ugh. Anybody else looking outside in, this is just, it's so immature and silly, you know, but in their own world, they're like, yeah, like, I tell it like it is, you know. It's like, give me a break. So yeah, and then there was one guy, I was waiting in line for Maverick, and he had like he had some sort of like, something that he was saying, like some little gotcha moment that he said. He was like being critical of Tony, the marketing guy. And so his like 2 buddies around him were like, they laughed at the joke or the little quip that he made. So he thought it would be funny to like get everybody else in line to laugh at his joke because not everybody heard him. So he said it again louder, but then like the line kind of started moving. So like, you know, people didn't really hear him, like it just didn't land. So then he said it louder again, but still like, even if people were hearing him, they didn't understand the joke or the reference or didn't think it was funny. So he said his little quip like, oh yeah, I bet Tony doesn't blah, blah, blah. I forget what it was, but he must have said that hot take, that line, like 5 times while we were standing in line before he gave up, and he just didn't get the response or the praise for his hot take that he was thinking. But it made me laugh. I was just kind of standing behind him, just kind of smiling, because I'm like, this is so desperate, like desperate to get a hot take or have a take on this or to get your joke to land. I was like, that's when you know, like, you're trying way too hard to be the cynical, negative guy that everybody on social media pretends to be, or that's the persona they like to give off. You know, you catch a lot more. You know, what is it? You catch more bees. What is it with honey? I forget. But like, I wanted to engage with all these people so much, and I'd be like ready to jump into a conversation when I could, to be like, oh, this place is so awesome. I'm so excited. It's my first time. I'm from Denver, blah, 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 blah. I think only one time during that Coastermania event around all these enthusiasts did I ever find myself in a position where it was appropriate to be excited to be there. the rest of the time I just kept my mouth shut, because I didn't have anything negative to say, and I don't have any experience with other roller coasters to talk down about Cedar Point in reference to. Like, it just wasn't a space for me. And that's okay. Maybe that just means I don't belong in this enthusiast group because I'm not able or willing to be hypercritical or negative about the park and the event. And I think that was the main takeaway from the event that I learned, is I'm not a coaster enthusiast. I thought I was, because I like watching enthusiast videos and learning about manufacturers, and I like learning about all the minutia of roller coasters and G-forces and banked turns and all of that stuff. I like knowing the facts and like the trivia about stuff, but where I stop being an enthusiast is when it comes to being very negative or having a poor attitude about what you're experiencing, because I love it. I enjoy it. I really, really like roller coasters. And even the ones that aren't quote unquote as good or worse or better, just the fact that they're such a spectacle, and they're so absurd, and they don't make any sense, but and I love that about them, and they're thrilling and they're exhilarating, and I really enjoy it. I like the history piece of it. Like, there's so much to love about Cedar Point and the rides that they have there, and just like theme parks in general. There's so much to love, and you can tell how much care and time and work and effort and all that stuff goes into it, and I feel like I can feel that. Like, there's one particular ride called Gatekeeper at Cedar Point where you hang off either side of the track, and just seeing the ground come up beneath you as you're dropping, and there's, not a car roller coaster train in the way, and just feeling that rush of air and the breeze of the water, and just like, it has these beautiful, like, kind of sweeping, smooth transitions. It's like, you can tell that when someone was designing this ride, it was also about the feeling that you get being on it, and it hit me different. It was just like, this is a team of people or a manufacturer making an attempt to make you feel something that you just don't feel as a human, and how cool is that? And then I, on that same group, I posted that that's the ride that I think I rode the most at the park, and someone was like, I wouldn't have wasted my time on a roller coaster like that. I would have spent my time going on better rides. And I was just like, what? Why do you need to do this? It's like, it's so weird that people on a Facebook group about a theme park where you're going to have a good time and enjoy yourself and kind of escape from like daily reality, bring that kind of that kind of attitude from daily life into a thing that's kind of meant to be removed from all of that. I hope that makes sense. It's just like, why do that to anybody posting on here to bring down their experience? Like, no, you actually didn't enjoy yourself as much as you thought you did, because here are the facts. This is a better ride. And it's like, what? I just don't understand. But anyway, that's kind of, I guess that's my hot take on Coastermania. The event was fabulous. It was absolutely fantastic. I would have taken a quarter of what they provided and paid more. Let Disney price what I experienced out and see how much I would have paid for that. It was phenomenal. The only pain point from that entire day that I experienced was some of a large portion of the attendees and the attitude that they brought to that experience. That was the only downside for me. Other than that, the highlight of the trip by far. So anyway, so that was day one. So yeah, and not everyone, absolutely, you know, certainly not every single person. Like I said, I met some really cool people, some folks that have been doing it for years, and were like, welcome, you know, it's great to have you, and we're gonna go do this and that, and blah, blah, blah. There was one content creator, I believe his name's Trent. I think his channel name is Not Your Normal Guy. He's always so enthusiastic and kind and friendly. And not only on his videos when he goes live, he'll just like stop, like people will stop and say hi to him at the park. And he's like, come over here, come over here. He's just like a very jovial person that I love watching. And so he was there. I saw him a couple times throughout the event, but I kind of kept to myself because he was filming and stuff. So I was like, oh, I don't want to mess up his flow. But then the next day he had a little meet and greet with his subscribers. So I popped down there to the beach. Okay, come on. And I popped down there to the beach and said hi, which was really nice. And I kind of felt bad because I went down there and it seemed like most of the folks that were there were either longtime followers or like personal friends of his. And so I hung out for a couple minutes and said hi and everything, but I had my Fastlane Plus. And so I was like, I spent $170 on this Fastlane. I'm gonna go ahead and want to go take advantage of that. So I hung out for a little bit, but I was like, I got coasters to ride, man. So I felt a little bad, but I think I'm gonna keep watching his videos and follow along and maybe comment more, engage a little bit more, be a more active member on his channel. And then if he does something like that next year, I'll feel a little bit more emboldened to be like, okay, I'm gonna set aside a whole, however long, just to go hang out and with the folks. But this is my first time to the park. And so I made the investment to ride these rides. I'm gonna ride the rides. So I hung out for about like 15 minutes or so, and then I went back into the park. But he did stop me. I was at Hotel Breakers, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, I just saw you. I just wanted to say hi. And I was like, that's so cool that he saw me from like across the lobby or whatever and remembered me and wanted to say hi. And that's the vibe that I get from him. He's just really, really cool. So not everybody, I'm not trying to paint broad strokes here, but I would say a significant amount of people seemed to have purchased a ticket and gone to an event that they were just ready to tear apart at the drop of a hat. You can see across here, that's usually a platform. You can see where there's a trash can and there's a bench. That's usually a platform that we walk down into so Apollo can jump around where those fish are. And as you can see, the tide is so high, or the water's so high, that one of the fish is almost completely submerged, and it looks like the fish are swimming now. So they kind of made that sculpture intentionally depending on the season. But you can't go down there right now because it's flooded. Okay, let's keep moving. I'm sorry, the creek is fully closed. We're not even allowed to go down there right now. It's too high. It's dangerous. No splashing for you. Yeah, I actually plan on, because I wanted to talk specifically about my experience at that event, and I plan on clipping that part of the vlog out and posting it on that Cedar Point Facebook group just to kind of share an outsider's opinion, like a very honest opinion. So we'll see how that goes over. We'll see if I get kicked out of that group, but I have posted on that group a number of times in preparation for this trip. And, you know, I'm usually my normal self, you know, like, oh my God, I'm going to Cedar Point and I just landed. And it's funny because I get a lot of people will like my comments and stuff and write like, oh, welcome to Ohio, you know, hope you love our state, hope you love our home park and stuff. Majority women will comment positively because I think, once again, there's just this mindset when it comes to social interaction about the parks and stuff, that the guys are supposed to be, oh, this is crap, you know, And so I think that there's probably a lot of guys that see my posts of like, I can't wait, this is a dream come true, like, give me a break, blah, 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 you know, so they don't really engage with me because I think I'm too positive for their liking. So we'll see how my my thoughts on my engagement or lack thereof at the event went, because it is the truth, and maybe it will kind of make people realize like it doesn't feel incredibly welcoming for newcomers, and maybe that's the whole point. Like, well, that's one of the points. They want to keep it to themselves. So if you are an outsider, you're kind of not welcome. I don't know, but yeah, it just wasn't. It was and wasn't what I expected. I knew that there was going to be some negative Nancy's for various reasons. I just didn't know that that's the expected mindset when you go to one of those, is to not enjoy yourself. It just seems so counterproductive. Or you enjoy yourself, but you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to vocalize your excitement. But I saw them on those roller coasters, screaming and hooting and hollering and waving their hands around. As soon as they got off the ride, I'm not sure about that. And it's like, come on, let it go for like 2 minutes. No one's gonna think you're less cool because you had a good time. So, on the flip side, after the event, I came back to the hotel at like 1 o'clock in the morning and passed out. Ooh, I wanted to mention. So one of the last rides I went on was Steel Vengeance. And I talked about in the vlog what that ride is, but I went on that ride second to last. And right at the end, at the little brake run where the brakes hit and slow you down so you can pull into the station to get unloaded, the ride broke down. The ride broke down. We were almost there. We were almost about to, make it into the station to be let off. The ride broke down and we had to get evacuated off the ride. And granted, we were only 15 feet or so off the ground, maybe a little bit less. So it wasn't that big of a deal. And there's a platform on walkway, kind of catwalk on either side. So they come through with this machine because they have to unlock the restraints, and those usually don't unlock until you're in the station. They have to come through with this special machine to manually unlock them because they're not going anywhere until they want them to for safety reasons. So they have to come through one by one and manually unlock our restraints so we could get out. And then they let us off onto this little catwalk. And then we had to stay in a single file line very close together so we're not falling off anywhere and walk us off the ride. We got lucky. A different train behind us got stuck on the lift hill, probably about 100 feet up maybe. And they had to walk down this little catwalk staircase escorted by employees. And I would have had a tough time with that because I'm very scared of heights. I don't mind heights when I'm all strapped in and I feel secure and I've got restraints. That's why I don't necessarily mind rock climbing, because there's harnesses and stuff. So, but just being out in the open, just to walk without anything attached to me and heights, that freaks me out. Like ladders, standing on the edge of balconies, glass elevators, all of that stuff really, really ekes me out. I don't like it. So I probably would have had a harder time walking down those staircases, or that staircase, without any sort of attachment. So I got really lucky. But there's a lot of people that look to experience an evacuation like that, where you get to kind of like get off the ride when you're not supposed to and walk through it. It was very short, but still I can now say that I've had an evac under my belt, which was really cool. So yeah, and after that I went on Maverick, I think once or twice, I think 2 more times before the end of the night. And that was a really fun ride too. And this is all at like midnight. So well after the parks closed, got to ride all these rides at night, which not a lot of people get to do, so that was a lot of fun. Went back and crashed, and the next day woke up a little bit late, got in the park, and just started going on all of my favorite roller coasters again. Used my little Fast Lane Plus to, you know, skip the line or cut the line as much as possible on a bunch of different rides, and ate a ton of food. Went and met with Not Your Normal Guy, and then went back in the park and just kept rocking and rolling. And then I took a little nap right around 5, and then went back in at 7 and just rode rides. And yeah, I rode Steelventions again, and as I was leaving it, it shut down for maintenance as I was walking out of the area. So I was like, oh, this thing, I'm just a bad omen for this ride. And then I rode, it started raining, and so I went on Millennium Force a couple of times. Then it started raining, so I went to go get on it again, and over the speakers like, we're closed for what, you know, inclement weather. So I was like, okay, I've got, 30 more minutes. What am I gonna go on? So I raced over to Gatekeeper once again. I think it might have been my favorite ride at the park, because it was showing as still open. And got in line, and right as I was about to get on, I was the next car to get on. It closed due to weather, but if you're in line, then they let you wait it out. So I hung out there for about 10 minutes or so. The rain cleared up, and then they have to do a test with the brakes to make sure that the brakes aren't too wet and slippery. Make sure that they're still braking. And so they did their test, good to go. And that was my last ride of Saturday night. And so I got off of that, and I filmed a little clip while I was walking on the beach. And I was like, you know what, guys, I'm gonna go get myself a drink, because this whole time I had been talking about how I was gonna break my sobriety at Cedar Point, and I had yet to do it. I think I was just worried that I was gonna have a drink and it was gonna hit me different because it's been so long, and then I'd be all nauseous or all tipsy on roller coasters. So I was like, I think I'm gonna save it until Saturday night, because then on Sunday I wasn't planning on riding too many coasters, or, it was after the park had closed, so I wasn't gonna drink and then run and ride a ride. So I was like, let me go to this little beachside bar. It was called the Sand Bar. Let me stop there and see if they have their frozen cocktail machines working, because earlier in the day they hadn't. And so I went over there, and as I was walking up, this swarm of mayflies came in, which I did not know what those were until this trip, what a mayfly is. And they just swarmed the park. Like, it felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, I saw a couple, and I started seeing these dead bugs on the ground, and then it was like millions of them just kind of like swarmed in, and they were just like going towards anything with a light. They were just coming in. So the whole park is one giant light. So they come in, they're swarming everywhere. People are screaming. People are running from the beach to get away from them, swatting them out of their face. So I filmed a little bit of it, but like there was a bunch in my hair, and they were just everywhere. It was so gross. And they were just crawling on all the bottles of liquor and stuff in the cups, because this is like an open walk-up bar. So I was in line to get a drink, or I was walking up to get a drink, and the guy's like, no, we're not, we're done, unless everybody wants protein shakes, go get something from inside, there's a bar inside. So I went inside and went to the lounge bar that was inside. Of course, he got hammered because everybody in line outside went inside to get their drinks. And so that's where I got a drink. I got a Mai Tai, I think. And that's where I saw Trent. Trent saw me in line. I was like, hey man. It's like, oh, hey. So I was like, should I go bother him with his table of people? Is that weird? Because he just kind of walked up to me, said hi, and then went back to his group. I was like, I don't know. I'm not ready for this I don't know why I was feeling like trepidatious about that, about social engagement, but by then it was already like 11 o'clock. I was like, I just want to go back to the hotel. So I put my hand over my drink, walked it back to the hotel, walked it back to my hotel. Luckily the mayflies had kind of calmed down by then, but there was so many of them dead on the ground that when you were walking, they're just like popping like Rice Krispies. It was disgusting. Made it back to my cabin. I drank my drink while I was just checking stuff on my phone. And I think I was texting with Katie too, to confirm the prizes for my Summer with the Masters video. By the time I finished that drink, I didn't feel buzzed or anything. Like I was thinking, ooh, it's really gonna get me like when I was back in college. It didn't. It made me nauseous. Like I didn't get the fun part or what I remember being the fun part of drinking. I just went right to my stomach hurting and me feeling gross. And I was like, why did I do that? So I took a shower and went to bed, and yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested. I'm not doing this anymore. So I didn't drink the rest of the trip. I don't plan on drinking. I was like, what? This, whatever it was that I liked about this, I think it's gone. So I just felt gross and like heavy. And so I was like, no, I think, and it could have just been the fact that I drank like a super sweet syrupy Mai Tai at a theme park resort. So maybe my mind will change if I try something else. But yeah, I was just like, yuck. This was not, I thought I was gonna feel kind of buzzed. I was like, maybe I'll go back, I'll drink this and I'll get a second wind and go walk around at night and film some more stuff. I was like, no, I just want to lay down. So did that. And then on Sunday, I woke up, had early entry to the park, got in the park. I didn't know how to approach the day because I had to check out at 11. So I was like, do I just sleep in until 11, check out, and then go to the park? It's like, no, I feel like I'm missing out on like a few hours of park stuff because I could go in at 9 or a couple hours. So I got my early entry into the park. I ran around and rode like 6 different roller coasters by 11-ish. Stood in line for a little bit on Millennium Force, so I didn't get right out at 11, and I stopped to get food, and early lunch, like right at like 11:15. Then I went and checked out, no issues. I didn't get like charged with the late checkout or anything, because I had already packed up my car before I went into the park, I should say that. Woke up early enough to pack up the whole car, shower, change, all that stuff. So all I needed to do was go to the guest services and check out. So I did that. And I was allowed to stay parked right there next to guest services, which was awesome. And I went back into the park, and you saw some of those clips of me walking around and doing a little tour of the park and stopping for food and drinks and rides and stuff. So I did that until about 4. And I was really hoping to get a last ride on Maverick and use that fast lane that we were given at the Q&A, but it was temporarily down for maintenance for, I want to say like 3 hours. And so by that time I was like, either I stay and wait and then I'm rushing to the airport, or I just have a leisurely trip back to the airport. And by this time, my legs were like seizing up. Like I was having to stop every so often and kind of stretch and rub out my thighs, because like, I'm not kidding, they would like start to go stiff. So I was kind of like duck walking around the park, because at this point we're talking, 46, 47 miles that I walked in 3 days. And then plus my legs getting hammered, my thighs getting hammered by some of the rides and stuff. So I was just beat to hell. And I just felt like a corpse walking around there towards the end. I just ran out of energy. I had an energy drink. I had cold brew, like no amount of caffeine and stretching was going to bring me back at a certain point. So I decided to leave early. I went back into Sandusky and I went to Ulta because I had to return a fragrance set that didn't work for me. It's like, might as well do it so it's slightly less weight in my carry-on. So I returned that. I made it back to the airport, returned my vehicle. They didn't ask me any questions. How was your rental? Were there any issues? Like, nothing. He was just like, leave the keys in the car. I was like, okay. Like, nothing. I could have torn up those seats or done whatever, and they just, like, nobody cared. They didn't even confirm when I left which car I had taken. He didn't, like, scan anything. He didn't have me sign anything. They were just throwing them. Just go, take that one, take that one. They didn't even know which vehicle I had rented. Oh, you know what? He did scan my windshield on my way out the door. So yeah, they must have tied it to me. But still, it was just so informal and unprofessional, and like, nobody seemed to care, you know, because they were just in a rush or just careless. And so yeah, dropped off my car, made it back in, made it through security, and I had about an hour and 45 minutes to spare before my flight boarded. And luckily, I got a direct flight home, so it was just a straight shot. And so I went over and hung out and just played on my phone for a while, ate some bao buns and drank a ton of water because I was super dehydrated, and came back home and cried when I saw my baby and kissed and hugged him all night. And now here we are. So yeah, that's kind of the whole trip. But yeah, I think as lessons learned for me, as far as going to Cedar Point in general, make sure to bring pants. If you're gonna ride roller coasters, I think any ride really, bring pants with zippered pockets. My first day I wore my cargo shorts, so they have a zippered pocket kind of down lower by your knee. Zippered pants or zippered shorts. Like the lower cargo pocket is what I went with the first day. And I put my phone in there and, you know, my chapstick and other stuff. But it was just at the right spot on my thigh, my leg, where when I would go sit in the roller coasters and put the lap bar or whatever down, it would just pinch my phone or put it in an awkward position where I was always worried that it was going to either tear the fabric or something was going to happen. It was just at an odd spot on my legs. Now, depending on your height, that might be different. But for me, at 5'10", and these particular cargo shorts, I just didn't like having all my stuff that low on my legs. So the next 2 days, I wore my kind of athletic pants, which got a little hot, but they were the only pants that I had that actually had zippered pockets, like up by your waist. So, but that was much more comfortable having my stuff up higher sitting in the rides than it was down lower. So that'd be my suggestion, to find shorts or pants that have actual zippered, because you are required to have them zippered or fastened, zippered pockets. So that would be one suggestion. Next one is to bring travel size sunscreen and bring more than what you think you'd need. I thought I brought one little travel size sunscreen with me, and I was like, well, I'll be going to the hotel back to the room frequently enough to reapply from my big bottle there. No. I spent pretty much all of Saturday, except for one break. And all of Friday, except for one break, in the park. So longer stretches than my normal 80 minutes of reapplying sunscreen. And so I burned through my little travel size sunscreen in a day. So on Saturday, I crisped and burnt because I ran out of sunscreen and I wasn't willing to leave the park to go reapply sunscreen just to walk back, which isn't normally like me. But yeah, so I burnt I damaged my skin, unfortunately, and I'm really upset about it. But I will exfoliate and try to, I hope, you know, it was just a day and a half, but you know how diligent I am about that stuff. So when I came back on Saturday and saw how tan I was like, no! Not that I don't like that I don't like being darker. I just know that tan is your skin's response to damage. And so I know that I really jacked myself up. So that sucks, but it's okay. I learned my lesson. So next time I will bring, for every day I'm in the park, I will bring 2 30 to 50 milliliter things of sunscreen to keep on hand per day. Not that I would use all of that, but it's nice to have it on hand just in case. Maybe you drop one, you know, whatever. So yeah, like 30 to 50 milliliters of sunscreen, just maybe 30 is more comfortable in a pocket. So I'd bring like 2 of those per day that you're gonna be in the park, at least. If you don't use them all, you take them back home. But I only brought 1, and then all of my big old full sizes, thinking, oh, I'll be back at the hotel every few hours anyway. So the travel size will tide me over in between. No. Burnt through that on Friday. And Saturday, really all I did was my morning sunscreen. And then again, when I went to go take a nap at 5. So I went from like 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went like 9 hours without reapplying sunscreen. So, sucks. It sucks. So that would be tip number 2. Tip number 3, or just kind of lesson learned, is no matter how many videos I watched about how to best approach going to Cedar Point to maximize the roller coasters and based off of how popular they are and beat the lines here and there. Like there were so many videos that are like, okay, you want to show up to the park 45 minutes before it opens. Then as soon as the ropes drop, you want to go immediately over to XYZ coaster. Okay, then once you've done that, that'll give you time because XYZ to run over to this ride, then do that, then crisscross back over to this one because based off of attendance numbers, this will be the next one that you're like, there's so many of those for theme parks and like vacation planning for like Disney and stuff, but there's a lot for Cedar Point too of like the itinerary that you should do to like maximize your time. Those might be helpful. I could see them being helpful for someone without an early entry, just walking through the main gates at 10 a.m. Here's what you want to do to beat the mass of people that you're with. But my experience on my second day, so not the special event, just the regular day that I had the Fast Lane Plus, and I got to go in through the side entrance and get to go in an hour early. So how I was already set up for success because I could already skip lines and all that stuff. But I still had to play the game of how long are the waits, because even with the skip the line, you could still skip the line and it would be, instead of waiting 70 minutes, you'd be waiting 30, you know? It was all a sliding scale, you know? So I found what worked best for me because I learned in being there that the park is essentially a big loop. There's some little offshoots here and there, mainly in the back for Steel Vengeance, but it's essentially a big loop. And so what I found is I would go in one point of the loop, walk to whichever roller coaster I wanted to go on first in the morning based off of early entry, which was usually, what was part of early entry? Valraven was not. It was usually Gatekeeper, I think, that I started my day with. I think Millennium Force Millennium Force was on early entry. So that was my first ride, I think every day. So I would walk the half circle over to Millennium Force, start my day there. Then from there, either go on it again, or I'd usually go to Gatekeeper because that was on early entry. And then by that time it's 10 o'clock. So it's when everything opens, all the rides open and the park opens to the general public. I would go to like the 2 popular rides, Steel Vengeance and Maverick, because they were finally open. and go on those. And then the rest of the day, I just did a loop around the park. So I didn't worry about like fussing with now cross over here to go do this, now cross over here to go do that. I just either picked clockwise or counterclockwise, and I just did laps around the park and then just was checking the wait times. And I'd be like coming up to, I knew that I was coming up on Gemini. I'm like, oh, perfect. There's less than a 15-minute wait. I'm going to go ahead and hop on that. And then the next one down the line is Magnum. Oh, that only has a 15-minute wait. I'm going to go on that. So I pretty much just did them in order of appearance on the map based off of how long the wait was. If it was anything more than like half an hour, I'd skip it and move on to the next one. And I just kept doing that for the majority of the day. And then at the end of the night, if there was still some rides or, you know, late evening that I was like, oh, I still really want to go on XYZ, the crowds start to thin out around 8 o'clock, 8:30. So you start to see the ride times on more popular rides kind of thin out a little bit. And so I would jump on some of those popular rides again and end my night with those. And usually I ended the very end of the night with Gatekeeper because I just really liked that ride. But it wasn't as, I felt like I needed to like write out like my destination list, like first this, then this, then this, make sure you're on this by this time. Like there's this perceived pressure that you need to plan it out that minutely. And from my experience, it was kind of just go around, and you'll get on the stuff that you want to get on. And whether or not you're willing to spend that length of time in line, that's your call. But I tended to just, I was still able to get everything that I wanted to get done on that Saturday, the normal day. Pretty much all of the rides again, and then some, just by keeping an eye on the app, because it seemed to be a pretty good representation of what the actual weights were, and just doing a loop. And if I was starting to come up on a super popular ride and I noticed that the wait time was acceptable for me, I'd just hop on, you know? So I don't know, that's maybe too reductive, but it wasn't as stressful in the park as I thought it was gonna be, of like racing, crisscrossing and trying to beat people to this, and like, okay, it's lunchtime, so that means the majority of people are gonna be eating. That's when you wanna go. Like, I didn't pay any attention. I ate when I was hungry, or even when I was not hungry, I just knew that I could get another meal, and I just forced something down because I wanted to try all the stuff. But yeah, come up with as much of an itinerary as your baseline comfortability would be, just in general. Don't feel like you have to push yourself to schedule beyond what you normally would for the sake of like trying to do everything. I just kind of went with the flow. I think my suggestion would be to save up for a big trip like this. If you're going to Disney or something like that, save up as much as you can, or you're comfortable saving, to give yourself access to those like exclusive things, to just make your life a little less stressful on the back end. Like, I'm so glad I spent that money. At first I was like, oh, I don't know, but it really allowed me to probably ride twice as much as I would have had I not purchased that extra pass. And it was a big expense. I mean, the park ticket itself was only like $50, and then the pass, the cut the line thing, was like $170. So it's a big investment, but I really feel like I got my money's worth. I ended up riding, I think I did almost 50 runs on roller coasters. I rode some of them several times, but 50 rides on various roller coasters, 16 different roller coasters over the course of the 3 days. Plus I rode a few other rides too. So I think I got my money's worth for sure. But yeah, let's see. Oh, this battery's holding up really well today. Other things. Food. The food was great. All things considered, it's a theme park in Ohio. The food was surprisingly good. Like, I only had one meal, which was intentional, that was kind of carnival-y. I had a cheese on a stick with some chips and a soda, but I wanted one carnival-y kind of theme park meal. And even that cheese on the stick wasn't that bad. It was like a giant mozzarella stick, essentially. So that was good. But all my other meals, I had smoked chicken wings, and they were like the full wing, so you got the like drum and the wing. That was really good. And the side options, I had mac and cheese one time there. The next time I went and had the the brisket. That was really good. And I had that with some Brussels sprouts. The Brussels sprouts were a little, was that? I don't remember. Yeah, I might be mixing up the combinations, but whatever. The Brussels sprouts were a little oily for my taste. I prefer them baked as opposed to like kind of the pan fried or the fried. So they were a little oily. I had a couple of them, but I didn't want to get myself sick, so I only just had a few. And they were also a little under seasoned. But I mean, you get these like seasonal veggies. I'm just gonna list off things. I'm not gonna do the right pairing because you get an entree and a side, I get confused. I had a sliced steak. The steak was really good. And I had that with, I think, a broccoli and cheese casserole, because how do you not go to the Midwest without a casserole? And that was all really good. And a lot of times you got a biscuit or cornbread. I also got, so brisket, steak. I got the chicken tenders. The chicken tenders were actually pretty good. I think I got, forget what side, maybe some potatoes or a fries or something. But I would say my favorite, my favorite was at the Grand, I think it's called the Grand Pavilion Restaurant and Bar. They had funnel cake battered fried shrimp. So they were like fried shrimp, but the coating was like kind of sweet funnel cake kind of breading. Those were so good. I had those twice. And I think one time I got them with fries, and then the next time I got it with a lobster bisque as my side. And that was my favorite meal of the whole time. The combination of the funnel cake shrimp and a lobster bisque. Heck yeah. It was so heavy, but so good. And then I had free drinks throughout the entire trip. Every 15 minutes I could refill my soda. And so I was fine on that. And that's maybe my last point, is drink plenty of water. So I think a lot of my tensed muscles and like feeling just zapped was just the sun exposure, and the fact that every time I went to go refill my soda, I felt obligated to get a soda because I wanted to make the most money out of my drink plan. So I was always getting a Diet Coke with ginger or a Fanta with, I always got the diet version. So 0 sugar Fanta, unsweetened tea. And a lot of times I was like, oh, you should get water. And then I'm like, yeah, but water isn't as valuable as the mellow yellow strawberry kiwi, So even if you get the drink plan, just get water too as well. Because, yeah, you should. You should. I didn't drink water until like I got home at the end of the day, and I would just drink as much as I could hold and then go to bed. So yeah, just drink plenty of water and enjoy yourself. So yeah, and I guess very last thing is we talked about the people at the Coastermania event, just kind of living up to some of my assumptions about them and how they interact on social media. The people that I had the best time engaging with were just the regular old non-enthusiast, just everyday park goers, be it the teens or the kiddos or the older folks that have been going for a long time. Just your regular run-of-the-mill Ohioan going to, or they could be traveling. I met somebody from Germany, and I actually rode the front of a roller coaster with him, and it was so much fun. But just your regular park goers that aren't like enthusiasts or on Twitter constantly or on these social media pages constantly. Just your everyday, I'm going to the park because I'm excited to go to the park, you know. Those were the people that I had the most fun engaging with. I remember on Valraven, there was a guy next to me and his friend that I think they had been before, but they were still just as excited to be there. And so we rode Valraven together and they were just screaming their heads off. And the guy's like, I'm gonna pee my pants. I think I'm gonna pee my pants, you know, just so excited and thrilled. And then we get done with the ride and he's like, you know, he didn't have to talk to me. You know, I was there by myself. I wasn't part of his group. He's like, how did you do? Did you do okay, bro? You okay, bro? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I rode this yesterday. He's like, that was incredible. That was so awesome. And he's like, thanks for keeping me company. You know, I didn't do anything special. I was just sitting there. But, you know, like just the enthusiasm and the excitement and the appreciation for like being there. That's where I saw the most from just your regular old everyday. I just come, you know, I come to the park when I can, or this is my first time. I was a single rider, so a lot of times I got paired with the odd one out of a group. And so a couple times I got paired with like little kiddos and they'd be like, okay, I'm so scared. And this four group of little boys, I sat with one of them and they're like, this is our buddy, whatever, I forget his name. He's really scared. You'll take care of him, right? He's gonna take care of you. And I'm like, yeah, you're good. And he's like, have you ridden this before? I was like, yeah, I've been riding. I rode it a few times yesterday and this will be my second time today. We were on Millennium Force and we got to sit in the very back. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of scared. And I was like, you're gonna be fine. It's totally fine. Just breathe through it. You'll be totally fine. So we started going up the hill and you could tell just like he was so scared. He like grabbed my my arm. He's like, you're gonna be fine. It's like, just breathe. We're almost to the top. It's almost over. It's really not that tall. And we started going up towards the top. He's like, Mom! I think he was playing it up a little bit, but he was really scared. And his friends were just like cackling. And we go over the edge and he was just like, ah! And so was I. And we got done with the ride. I was like, you did it. That was so awesome. He's like, yeah, I did. If I can go on this, I can go on any of the other rides. This one's the tallest one. It's like, yeah, that's right. Like, you got all of these. He's like, okay, I'm good. And he was just like, it was just so sweet, you know, and so like earnest. And I think that's the thing that I felt like I had that because it's my first time there. And I was just wishing I saw that more from like the enthusiast crowd of like just enjoying it for it, you know? And I just felt like that was missing from the people that I either overheard or was engaging with at that event. It's like it was just kind of, it's all very, I don't know, all very cynical. So that was cool. I met another guy who's been going up there for years, and his daughter, they were in line for Millennium Force, and she's like, I've been going on this ride since I was a little kid, and I try to come up and hang out with my dad and my mom at least once a year, and this is always the ride that we go on. There's so many memories. Like, that's the kind of stuff I was like hoping to hear. Come on. And so I got chatting with them for like a good while. Stay. So I got chatting with them for like a good while and just talking about their time and how much they love the park. And once again, like, oh, I've been coming here with my dad and that kind of stuff. So it's just like, that was the type of engagement I was hoping to have, because I was worried that I was just going to be the awkward Annie by myself, you know, standing in lines and like sitting next to people that didn't really want to sit next to me because they got split up from their friends. Like, you're always the loser when you're the single rider, because you're the Debbie Downer, because, you know, when someone gets stuck sitting next to you, right? So, I mean, that happened the majority of the time, but there was a few times where like a lot of people actually were like wanting to engage, and that was just really cool. And I was glad I got some of that, but it was all with people that were just there because they wanted to be there and they were excited to go, you know. it didn't seem like it was a chore for them to be put through going on these rides, which is kind of how it felt on Friday. It was like, everyone seems to hate all of this stuff. Like, why are you here? You know, I think it was just like, we come here to commiserate in the complaints that we have, is the vibe that I got. It was just like, yuck. So yeah, I was trying to remember, there was one other person that I was talking to. I forget. There's somebody else that I was engaging with. There was a few other people. There was quite a few people that I would end up chatting with in line, and just had kind of fun, you know, short, shallow conversations, but just shared our excitement and got to hear why they like the park so much, and if it's their favorite ride, and which one I should go on next, and which one was my favorite. I didn't get any of that during the special event. None of those, no opportunity for that type of like, isn't this place awesome? Like, no opportunities presented themselves to have those types of conversations. It felt like everyone was wrapped up in their dislike or distaste. So, not everyone, like I said, but I'm gonna say conservatively 80% of the conversations I overheard or was welcomed into early on, but then quickly kind of faded into the background of standing with a group of people because I didn't have anything critical or negative to say, so I just wasn't talking. It's like, yeah, I don't have an anecdote about how this used to be better, or how this other place is better. Yeah. I just had nothing to bring to the table, so I didn't really engage too much. But who knows? Maybe next year will be different. But that's my experience with my trip to Cedar Point. Overall, it was fantastic. It was very surreal to see a lot of the roller coasters that I've only seen on, on TV or online, or rendered as a computer game that I've played since I was a kid. See them in real life and see the true scale of them, and just how, once again, how absurd they are, what a spectacle it all is, but in the coolest way, and just to get to experience those types of like rides and stuff. And yeah, just like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but when you're on a ride that's 300 something feet tall and you're going like 80 miles an hour over these big hills, and you feel like you're gonna launch right out of your seat and just go flying off into space, and that like sense of weightlessness, and like, it's just very exhilarating. And I hope I get to do it some more. So yeah, that was my Cedar Point trip. I wonder if anyone's listening at this point. Yeah, that was my Cedar Point trip. It was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and I encourage anyone who hasn't been there, that lives in a decent enough drive, to make the trip with, family. I think another thing that I will change if I get to go next year is I'm forcing someone to go with me, so I have someone to commiserate with and be like, wasn't that awesome? Because that was the hardest part, is getting off a ride and just kind of quietly, internally screaming with joy inside, because I didn't have someone around to be like, oh my God, that was crazy. Did you, the part where it went whoosh and then I went, like, I didn't have anyone to do that with. So next time I want to bring a friend, or maybe, who knows, maybe sometime this time next year I'll have somebody closer than a friend that wants to do this with me. But yeah, I think that's one last thing, is like, it's fine going by yourself. I didn't mind it. And I made some line friends long enough that I had a good time. But it's way easier if you've got a second person with you, or even just get on some of these groups, and maybe you can connect with someone who's going to the park. She's like, hey, you know, you're planning on going, I'm planning on going, do you want to just double up riding together and just make life a little bit more comfortable from a social aspect? Then maybe do that. So yeah, I think that's it. Next time I go, I will most likely have a more casual approach, because I definitely pushed to ride as much as I could this time, because it was my first time and I was very enthusiastic. So I definitely pushed myself maybe harder physically than I should have to get it all, to try to fit as much in as possible. So I'll maybe take a more casual approach next time. But then again, I think a switch flips within me when it comes to stuff like this, where I'm just like, go, 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 go. All right, speed walk here. Now go over here. Now do this. Now walk, walk, go, go. We can get in here. Like, there's so many times where I did not need to be rushing around the park, you know, speed walking in that loop as fast as I was, because I just wanted to get an extra ride in, or like, that means 5 more minutes at the end that I can do something, you know, that all adds up cumulatively. Every minute counts. But I still feel like I didn't go as intensely as some people online that do these guides and stuff recommend you go, especially when they're talking about if you're going with your family. Like, I couldn't imagine doing what I did, which is still not maxing out my productivity in the park, with kids. Your kids, your partner, your significant other will hate you if you try to go as hard as some of these videos and guides recommend you go to maximize your time in the park. People that don't have that same mindset will want to choke you. So read the room and be comfortable with going at a more leisurely pace, even if you personally feel that that's money flying out the window because you didn't get that one last ride in, or you didn't check off that one last box. It's gonna be okay. And I need to remind myself of that if and when I go with somebody else. Because going solo was good, because I could, you know, walk to the beat of my own drum or whatever, or march to the beat of my own drum. But I couldn't imagine taking somebody else there and expecting them to put 40 plus miles in 3 days and not want to kill me. So yeah, this is maybe the only time that I'll do it like I did it this round. But anyway, that's really all I have. I don't have my watch, so I don't know how far we've been walking, but we've definitely done a longer one. So I'm gonna let you go, but I hope you enjoyed the clips and kind of come with me vlog. And then I hope you enjoy this kind of overall recap. I not only filmed this for this channel, but I'll be using portions of this to put together a more condensed recap of my experience with Coastermania over on that Cedar Point Facebook group, because people were asking my opinion of it as a first timer, and I'm going to share my honest thoughts. And then I may be posting a full breakdown of ranking the rides, the roller coasters in order of least favorite to most, because that's also something people were asking me a lot about. But I might actually do a more in-depth look at the rides, because I do have some opinions on why I like the ones that I like and didn't like the ones I didn't. So it seems like a weird thing to put effort into creating a video or a recap about, but it's pretty popular content on the theme park fan side of things. So I'm thinking it might pull some people that like that type of content over to the single and placing channel, if not just to watch some of that stuff. And who knows, maybe I'll go to another theme park this year. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And maybe I'll return to Cedar Point next year. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So just always exploring different things here on single and placing, and encouraging more people to check out the channel. So I hope you don't mind. I hope it still keeps you company regardless. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content with friends, family members, anyone that you think might take some value out of it. Otherwise, happy placing, and we'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye. Bye. Come say bye. Can you come say bye? Come on. How about? Oh, good boy. That was a little half-hearted, but I'll take it. Okay, bye.